Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining. And it's a great honor for me to share this podium with, as others have said, and I completely agree, two really, really important voices and two great minds in this field, Professor Kedar and Carolyn Glick. I was with Carolyn in my home talking about this stuff just, I think, 2 days ago, and I just landed in New York. And I before I talk about these things, just a word or two that I think just maybe to set the right tone. Um, I want everybody to know that, I'm optimistic. I really am. I mean, a lot of bad things going on around the world and a lot of challenges that Israel faces. But I just spent 7 weeks in Israel, and I've just come back, and I'm optimistic. And I'll give you this example. One of the ways that you can gauge the health of a human being is whether they can get life insurance. Right? That's sort of it's not touchy feely. It's just data driven. You know, they have all kinds of algorithms and formulas to figure out whether they're going to write a policy on somebody. So ask yourself this: you got two people applying for life insurance, right? One guy has a virulent form of cancer, but he doesn't know about it. The other guy has a virulent form of cancer, and he's discovered it, and he's getting treatment. Now, if you're a life insurance company, which policy are you more likely to write, right? Who's the healthier of the two? Right. Obviously, it's the guy who knows about it because he can address it and maybe he can get cured. Doesn't mean he's necessarily fully healthy, but at least he's on the mend. Now, before October 7th, Israel had terminal cancer. I mean, it didn't know it. It had on its border an enemy, a ruthless. I mean, it knew the enemy was ruthless and knew the enemy was barbaric. Did it really know that the enemy had the capacity or the plan to this attack? I guess we'll find that out over the course of the next year. But an enemy with 350 miles of terror tunnels, some of which could take truckloads of materials, every house almost sitting on top of a tunnel, massive corridors between Gaza and Egypt in the Philadelphia corridor that could keep Gaza stocked with weapons for forever. I mean, there's massive, massive risks that were unknown or certainly not taken seriously by the Israeli government. And now, after October 7th, with all the pain and the difficulty and the, if you will, the chemotherapy that we're going through to try to get healthy again, we're a lot better off today than we were then, and that gives me some real cause for optimism, especially as I've seen, over the last, and this is my fifth trip since October 7th, but let's just understand that the people of Israel. I mean, we can criticize the parties, the leadership, the politics, and I have no intention of doing that. But the people of Israel, the people that actually have stepped up to save and protect this great nation, are extraordinary, extraordinary people. I mean, they are an incredible asset, the likes of which I don't know that any other country has. I mean, people, normally when there's a war, people are running out of the country. Here, all the planes, after the war, most of the planes were full coming in with soldiers who were, on break, and they all were flying in. Nobody was flying out. More people reported for reserve service than were called up. And since then, it's been like that every day. We see everyday acts of heroism. So, you know, um, if I'm betting on, if I'm making a macro bet on a country, and I do some investing, so I do sometimes look at this stuff based on data. If I'm making a macro bet on a country around the world, I'm betting on Israel. I really am. I think Israel will solve their problems, and they will emerge stronger than ever. So that's, I know it's kind of hard to be optimistic now, but sometimes, as a guy who used to do distress investing and invest in companies when they were in bad shape and try to turn them around, you kind of spot opportunities. Israel is a screaming buy. If you're an investor, it's a screaming buy. If you want to move there, this is Israel. I think has identified its problems and has developed clarity on issues that it has never had before. Now, will it act upon that clarity? I mean, hopefully people like Professor Kedar and Cowan and others can influence the government to go in the right direction. But I believe that we are trending in a different direction that is positive. I wish it didn't come at this price. I wish it didn't come with the loss of life, with the wounded, with the hostages. We wish they all should return. I wish none of those things happened. But we have discovered the illness within Israel society, and at least some people, I think, are beginning to bring about a cure, which I think is very positive. The other thing I'd say is, look, we have learned this lesson over and over again that vacuums in the Middle East get filled by bad actors. And Israel has paid this price over and over again. I mean, even with Egypt, which most people would say was a smart move, they left Sinai, and Sinai became filled up with pockets of ISIS. Under Oslo, Israel left areas, what's now called areas A and B. There's no Israelis going there. It's filled up with, Hamas and Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades and the worst of the PA. Obviously, Israel left Gaza. It was taken over by Hamas. As Carolyn mentioned, we left Lebanon. It was taken over by Hezbollah. We just, it's almost like, Charlie Brown in the football. We keep making this mistake over and over and over again. And I think this may be the last time. I think October 7th, hopefully, will bring about the last time that we make these mistakes. I say it in the book. It's almost like God, because I am a person of faith. It's almost like God is telling us, how many times do I have to tell you? I gave you this land, keep it. Stop giving it away. It's not going to work out when you give it away. Just keep it, hang on to it. Trust me, it's the best outcome. And I hope October 7th was the last time we have to learn that lesson. I really do. Um, Look, I think ultimately Gaza is sort of a, what we would call maybe a lagging indicator for Judea and Samaria. I mean, Gaza is a mess right now. It's very hard to talk about the day after. It's not even clear what the day after is. What is the day that would constitute the day after? Because the idea that we'll decide that Israel has won the war doesn't mean that there aren't going to continue to be pockets of Hamas throughout the Gaza Strip. I mean, it's not like it's a binary win versus lose. I mean, we could find Sinwar and kill him. We could find all the hostages and free them. We'd feel good, and we'd feel like we'd achieved some cure for this illness. But it's not. I mean, they're still there. There's still pockets of Hamas there. So the question is, can we create another vacuum? And I think the answer is no. We can't create another vacuum. However, we decide to fill that vacuum, at the very least. Now I'm speaking about Gaza, and I'll move on to Judea and Samaria because it's a more mature problem. It isn't on the heels of this type of a war, but at the very least, the Israeli defense forces have to remain in Gaza. And I agree that the truth is. Having the army without a population base, it also doesn't work. I mean, you can't just put an army into hostile territory and say, go keep the peace. I mean, there has to be Jewish settlement as well. Now, the problem is if you say that right now, because the situation is so raw and difficult, and because we have the Biden administration, it's best left finessed in the short run. But I don't think the same is true for Judea and Samaria, which is why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because of three things. I wrote the book because of October 7th. I wrote the book because in the aftermath of October 7th, 82% of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria indicated that they approved. In fact, that they endorsed and embraced the assault by Hamas on October 7th. And the last point was that in the aftermath of this, the Biden-Harris administration was saying the way you really got to fix this is a two-state solution. When I heard all this, when that last piece came to me, I said, all right, I got to stop what I'm doing. I locked myself in my office for 10 weeks and I wrote the book. And the upshot of the book, kind of the punchline, if you will, is that if you think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and lots of people do, and lots of people have written about it, and lots of people are experts on it. In many respects, people have devoted far more of their lives to this issue than I have. But I say there's sort of five vectors that drive people's views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. One, of course, is national security. One is faith. One is people's interest in human rights. One is economics and creating more prosperity, and one is geopolitics, creating a more regional stability within the area. So those are kind of five vectors. Now, people prioritize them in different ways, and they look at them in different ways. And sometimes the way people prioritize them drives their view about a solution. Well, guess what? Since October 7th, my thesis is that every one of those vectors is heading in the identical direction. This is the first time in our lifetimes that every single one of these issues resolves itself in favor of one Jewish state, in favor of Israeli sovereignty over all of Judea and Samaria. Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has a demonstrated ability to empower an Arab minority population. Now, look, the Arab population in Israel, you know, you can say you can say the glass is half full, the glass is half empty. I'm optimistic. I mean, I in my book I point out some statistics that, you know, 20% of Israel is Arab, and more than 20% of Haifa University, Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, the Technion, and and Beersheba University is Arab. I mean, the Arabs are well integrated into the universities, which of course is the launch pad for success in Israeli society. You go into a pharmacy in Israel, it's almost 100% probability you're going to deal with a Palestinian. You go to the emergency room at Hadassah Hospital, good chance you'll get a Palestinian doctor. One of my closest friends in Israel is the former chairman of Bank Leumi. He's an Arab Muslim who was the chairman of Israel's largest bank. Um, eh, you know, I think that um, Israel doesn't try to get enough credit for it and doesn't get enough credit for it. And I can tell you, when I was in government, you know, we played some games. We went to the Triangle area, you know, Fahim and Bak el Garbi. I met with some people there, and I said to them, "Hey guys, you know, you're 100% Arab. Your communities. You have a lot of complaints about the Israeli government. You know, we're kind of tinkering around now with, you know, various options. What if we just redraw the green line, and we'll put all your towns on the other. You're right up against the green line. Why don't we redraw the green line, and we'll take you outside of the state of Israel, and you'll be within this Palestinian territory. So if you get a Palestinian state, you know, you won the lottery. You're part of Palestine. Is that what you want?" They thought I had three heads. I mean, their view is, are you crazy? We never want to be part of any state of Palestine. It'll be a disaster. It'll be corrupt. It will fail. And it will, as Dr. Kedar said, it'll be a failed state. Of course, it'll be a platform for a terrorist state as well. So look, I think Israel has the ability to export something very special into the Palestinian neighborhoods. You know, the question that everybody asks is, well, are we going to let 2.5 million people vote in a national election? The answer is no. The answer is absolutely not. Whether they need to be, considered clans or cantons or emirates or cities. I mean, we can, you know, those to me are details we don't need to really resolve right now. But you know, what I say is, look, the United States has sovereign territory in Puerto Rico and Guam, American Samoa. I mean, that's sovereign U.S. soil. The people that live there are citizens of the United States. They don't vote in our national elections, right? Nobody calls America an apartheid state. So there are different ways to skin this cat. And you know, if you want to solve the problem, we can solve the problem. But at the end of the day, I think that whether you're someone of faith who says, look, God gave this land to the Jewish people, and we can't give it away. And don't underestimate the number of people who think that, especially within the Christian world. But I can tell you, I'm Jewish and I feel that way. Whether you're somebody who says, look, we have to create a national security regime that will last for 100 years. Well, Jewish settlement in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza with the Israeli army creating a security umbrella, I think, is the way to do it. Whether you care about, you know, human rights, about religious freedom. I mean, Israel's the only country in the region that can create a system of human rights, religious freedom. Economics, Israel's GDP per capita is about 55,000. Every one of its neighbors, the GDP per capita is around 6,000. So I mean, who should be in charge of this? It's got to be Israel. There's nobody but Israel. And here's the most important thing, and I'll leave you with this point. People say to me, "Well, what should America do?" And I'm going to tell you, just to, you know, kind of put a finer point on this. If I said to President Trump tomorrow, you know, I think it would be a great idea for Israel to assert its sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, his response to me would be, well, what do the Israelis want to do? Okay. And right now, my answer to him is, I don't know, and I don't think they're up to it right now. So the biggest issue to me right now is trying to have a national consensus developed on this issue. It's really important, and I'm not talking about getting, you know, 61 or 62 seats in the Knesset and pushing it through. I mean, that's one way to do it. I think it's the wrong way. Again, I'm optimistic, and I have strong relationship with secular Israelis who range from being, agnostic to atheists. But you know what? They're Jewish people, and they're great patriots, and they love the country, and they fight for the country, and they have distinguished military careers. And when I tell them, which they don't really know, when I tell them about the incredible legacy and majesty of Judea and Samaria, and it's important to the Jewish people. After about 10 minutes, they tell me we don't want to give it away. We can't give it away. It's like America giving away the Washington Monument or the Statue of Liberty. I think it's an easy sell to make, but it's not being done. I mean, the conversation I had, I wish I could have it a million times. I can't, I don't have time to do it a million times, which is why I wrote the book. But I believe that, with a proper conversation, with respect, with love, with the right format, Israel can be empowered to desire its sovereignty over its great biblical, majestic legacy. I think that's better for Israel. I think it's better for the Palestinians. I think it's better for the region. And that's why I say one Jewish state. Doesn't matter whether you're right or left, whether you're religious or secular, whether you are pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel. It's the right outcome for everybody living there. Israel is the only country with the capacity, the skill, the know-how, the wherewithal, and the will to turn all of biblical Israel into a place of peace and prosperity. Thank you.